is my strength and song, and he has become my salvation. He is my God, and I will praise him, my Father's God, and I will exalt him. I want to talk to you this morning from the subject entitled, My Father's God. My Father's God. My beloved brothers and sisters, on this Father's Day, I'm reminded of a story of a family who was inspired to do something after hearing the pastor's sermon on a Sunday morning. The sermon was based off evangelism, and so they felt provoked to put their faith in action. They invited their neighbors to dinner the following Friday night. When the neighbors and the family sat down to eat, they wanted to demonstrate to their neighbors that they were in fact born-again believers and believed in Jesus Christ. And so, as a mere display, they asked their 5-year-old son to lead them in the grace. The 5-year-old son was nervous because the guests said, because the guests were there and the guests were looking at this 5-year-old boy. The young boy looked at his mother and said, "I don't know what to say." And there was an awkward pause as the neighbors looked at the family, wondering what they were going to do. And so the mother looked at her 5-year-old son and said, "Well, just say what your daddy said at breakfast this morning." Being obedient unto his mother, he remembered what his father had said, and the boy prayed, "Oh God, help us tonight, because we've got those awful neighbors coming over for dinner." You see, my beloved brothers and sisters, this story reminds us of how our actions play out in our children. Our children, they are prone to do what we do, regardless of what we say. In other words, if we act one way because everybody's up here in the church, and you wearing deacon this and deaconess that and minister this and so forth, you're just a lay member that says, "I go to Greater Mount Pisgah Baptist Church." Just because you act one way in the church, I know how you act by the way your children act, because they do what they see. So we must understand that we can't just talk the talk, but we in fact have to walk the walk. One thing that we must understand is that our children perceive and they understand what church is all about by the way that we come into church and by the way that we leave the church. And see, and if we do not allow the word to work in us and through us, then all we're teaching them is that Sunday morning church is just a place that we just go to. So as we celebrate this Father's Day in the year of 2010, I would like to say, thank God for fathers. Yeah. Thank God for the man that has provided the seed that I may have life. I thank God, Deacon Grayson, for Howard Sr. I thank God for my dad. And I want to push the point for every man and woman in this place that we ought to thank God for our fathers. Whether your father is present or whether your father has never been present, you ought to thank God for your father for the mere fact that he provided the seed in which you are here today. And so whether the father is present, whether the father is not present, we must honor God, because if it were not for fathers, we simply wouldn't even be here. And thus I have not come this day to give individuals some grim statistics of what men are not doing. We know what men are not doing. I have not come today to talk about the absence of men in the family as well as the absence of men even in the church. Because the reality is that no researcher, no article that has been published can tell us what we already know. Many today can bear witness and write your own article concerning the men in your life. You can write your own article in regards to how they handle the responsibilities in your life or the lack of handling responsibilities in your life. But this story reminds us, my beloved brothers and sisters, that our words are more important to our children. And more importantly, our presence or non-presence will play out in the life of our children and then eventually this society. For in this story, the issue wasn't that the man or the woman was not in the church. The issue was not that they did not hear a stirring sermon that caused them to move into action. It did not matter if they had a title or did not have a title in the church, but the crux of the story is they did not internalize and act out what they had been taught. They had an action of evangelism, but they had no action that demonstrated conversion. There are many individuals in the church who attend Bible study every week. There are many individuals in the church who are here every time the church doors are open. There are many who can quote the word, but the truth of the matter is they don't know the word. For John reminds us that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In other words, to know the Word is to know Jesus. And many know of His Word, but don't know Him who is the Word. Just like these parents, the Word entered into them, but it did not come out of them. Jesus explained it this way. Those things which proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and they defile a man. And so we must understand, it's not because you're here in the church. It's not because you have a certain title. It's not because you can say, I did this in the church, or I did that in the church, or I've been in the church since I was a young boy. It does not matter. What matters is what comes out of your mouth. As I say all the time, you may be the only Bible somebody may read. Or what chapter, what verse are you on? My beloved brothers and sisters, studies show that many men are avoiding the church, while others are running to the mosque. They accredit the men that run to the mosque because they say the mosque tends to be result-oriented. In other words, what brothers are really saying is, don't waste my time. If I'm going to put down the football game, I'm not coming to the church for foolishness. If I'm going to postpone my golf game, I want to be about the Father's business. If I'm going to set aside, because I work all the time, sun up to sundown, I've got kids, I've got a wife, I've got another woman who has my kids. I've got so much going on in my life. If I'm going to give up my day of relaxation, I ought to see some results. That's how our brothers look at things, and I should expect to see results. And the reality is many men run from the church because they see us as actors. The Greek calls it hypocrites. See, according to Professor David Tamayo, who is a professor of Middle Eastern and Arabic studies at the Harvard University, he declares Islam is a religion that produces results. Islam promises to give you a family immune from divorce, immune from teen pregnancy, immune from drug and alcohol addiction. And the shocking truth of the matter is, the statistics show that to be true. Compared to the church, the mosque is running all over us. You see, because the reality is a man is looking to shepherd his family, and today they notice that Muslims, when they are raising their children that are in the mosque, their daughters don't go around with halter tops and navel rings. The women that they are married to, they don't watch Desperate Housewives. Dr. DeMayo, he says because Islam delivers what fathers and husbands want for their families, strong men gravitate toward it. Therefore, it becomes male heavy. This professor from Harvard University believes that Islam's emphasis on responsibility and accountability is attractive to men. It imposes clear behavioral demands upon the men because accountability is amongst the men in the mosque. I have to say, Minister Darrell, I agree with this summation. I tend to agree because the church of today has become just like the world. There are things that we don't want to say because we think it's not politically correct.